Kentucky woman has now been sentenced. Why? Because she decided to send bullets and racist comments to her neighbors, put her up for a mask. Hell of a story. 55-year-old Suzanne Craft from Kentucky has been sentenced to 9 years in prison. Why is that? Because, well, she's racist. After being charged by federal authorities, she will obviously get released a little early. Looks like 3 years of supervised release. She decided to spray paint the N-word in her neighbor's driveway. She decided to send them racist, hateful letters. During a March trial, Craft was found guilty of 5 counts of mailing threatening communications, and the jury determined she targeted her neighbors because of their race. When you do something like that, it allows for the jurisdiction of the federal government to get involved. That jurisdiction, well, is led by Assistant Attorney General Kristen Clarke. She's in charge of the Department of Civil Rights Division. She's the Assistant AG. Here's what Clarke said about the sentencing. This sentence sends a clear message regarding our commitment to ending hate-motivated violence and threats of violence. There is no room in civilized society for violent threats based on race. We hope that this result brings some measure of peace to victims who had to suffer through the defendant's terrifying threats of racial violence. And let me say this about the Civil Rights Division of the DOJ. Literally, think about it. In order for the DOJ to get involved in these cases, you simply must have a few elements that can be at least verified on face value and prosecuted. One, willful, racist, racial intimidation. If it is for your neighbors, well, rules apply. Federal government has jurisdiction. You have to imagine that if this is all it takes for the federal government to have jurisdiction without question, why is it we don't see more of these prosecutions? Because the department is extremely understaffed, underfunded. And here's the political position they're in. And I have this information directly from members of Congress. If they go too far, if the Civil Rights Division, if they actually start utilizing the absolute power they have, exercising the authority granted to them by statute, they risk a backlash from Republicans and some Democrats to basically take away even more funding from that department. So they have to basically cherry pick certain cases in order to prosecute them, hopefully sending a message to others, this is not going to be tolerated. Well, there you have it. According to the Louisville Courier-Journal, cameras in front of Michaela and Connie Panita's home showed her painting the N-word and naturally a swastika in the driveway 3 times. She also sent them mail that contained violent and racial messages between November and December 2020. The anonymous letters had racist slurs and bullets in them. The couple's attorney, Vanessa Cantley, told the Courier-Journal in 2020, quote, she also threatened their child on a bicycle this past summer and threatened to run over her, Cantley said in November 2020. The family was granted a no contact order against Craft in July. She was previously charged by the state with criminal mischief and harassing communications. She was found guilty of contempt of court twice since then for violating the order. The Courier-Journal reports she spent a week in jail and another on house arrest. So let me give you the scenario. The person was so egregious that the state got involved, but they gave basically a slap on the wrist. The actions continued. Federal government ended up intervening. We've seen this before. It actually ended in the death of a Black woman inside of her own neighborhood in front of a child. Local authorities do not take things like this seriously enough. But I guarantee you, if the tables were flipped, they would have all types of task force, emphasis, a plea for more money, bigger budget in order to handle these, well, thugs. But because these thugs happen to have a whiter hue, they're not contextualized in that same way. They can be terroristic to the community, aggressive against children, violent to neighbors, and still receive the benefit of the doubt. All right, Yasmin, thoughts?
Yeah, I will never understand the effort that people undertake to be terrible to people who are literally just minding their own business and trying to live their lives. And you almost have to mourn the opportunity cost of something like this. Who could this woman have been had her energies at some point in her life been redirected to something more positive or more productive? Who could she have been? What could she have done with the time that she spent on committing hate crimes? What if she was doing anything besides that? Apart from terrorizing the people in her community, she could have had interests or hobbies or skills that she could have, put to better use. And I always wonder about people like this, how they turned out the way they did, whether it's their upbringing, whether they're just like that, whatever. But even without making excuses for someone like this, because she absolutely is responsible for her actions and she should be prosecuted for them, we have to think about the future of our nation. We need to send a message that behavior like this, regardless of your skin tone, regardless of your race, whatever, behavior like this has no place in this country and it will not be tolerated in this country. These people need to feel ostracized and they need to know that people don't respect them because of their beliefs and because of their actions. There has to be consequences.
I agree with you, and I do believe the Trump sentiment, the Trump era has given these individuals a sense of protection. She's 55 years old. She waits until she's over 50 in order to engage in this kind of criminal conduct. She's now going to serve a prison sentence. She won't be out until she's over 60. It's insane.